Вітаю. Сьогодні ми проводимо брифінг на тему підсумки гуманітарного розмінування МВС України.
Welcome. Today's briefing is on the 95th day of the war, and we'll be talking about the results of humanitarian demining. Currently, systematic and coordinating demining work is underway by all the parties involved, Ministry of the Internal Affairs, SES, and National Police Guard of Ukraine. Every day of hostilities means 30 days of demining. That is to say, now Ukraine needs 5 to 7 years to demine the entire territory. In order to speed up this process, the International Coordination Center for Humanitarian Demining has been established, and it is targeted to minimize the risks of the explosive devices consequences for the civilians. Currently, we are receiving different kinds of help, including motor vehicles, medical kits, special explosive tools, and also explosive and weapons detection dogs, plus cumulative and incendiary charges for the destruction, disposal, or deflagration of explosives. Currently, the implementation of measures within the framework of the signed partnership agreement with the representation of the Danish Refugee Council in Ukraine, and also together with the Halo Trust in Ukraine, a draft agreement on cooperation in the field of humanitarian demining is being developed. It provides for the joint operations and providing technical assistance to the pyrotechnical units of Ukraine's emergency service. To date, the Ukrainian Emergency Service of Ukraine has been approached by 8 international bodies, and they have received guidelines on the procedure for involving international organizations to demine Ukrainian territory. These include organizations from Great Britain, Turkey, Denmark, Norway, the USA, and the Embassy of the Republic of Estonia in Ukraine, including the National Central Bureau of Interpol in the Republic of Poland. In addition, 18 international organizations have previously submitted their proposals. Currently, Ukrainian Ministry of the Interior and other organizations have removed 120,000 explosive devices. Major motor roads are secured, and the demining has been held around the critical infrastructure facilities. In the regions of Sumy, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, this work is also underway. These territories have been hit by the enemy. Together, more than 22,000 square hectares have been surveyed. On average, from 2,000 to 5,000 explosive devices are detected on a daily basis. The representatives of the Ministry of the Interior, Oleh Bondar, who is the head of the Directorate for Pyrotechnical Works and Humanitarian Demining of the SES, and Dmytro Karakurkchi, who is the Deputy Head of the Explosive Service of the National Police of Ukraine. Oleg, I will give the floor to you. Glory to Ukraine. I wish you health. To begin with, since the fully fledged invasion of the Russian Federation into Ukraine, our services are demining the villages, settlements, and infrastructural points. We are now focusing on surveying the Kyiv, Chernihiv, Zhytomyr, and Sumy regions. And also, we are trying to liquidate the consequences in the other Ukrainian oblasts. As of today, the pyrotechnical units of the Ukrainian Emergency Service have identified thousands of devices, explosive devices. In particular, in Kyiv, Sumy, and other regions, we have cleared and detected explosive devices in 250 settlements. We have cleared hundreds of kilometers of the roads and 127 kilometers of railways, 1,190 infrastructural facilities, 100 kilometers of gas pipelines, and hundreds of kilometers of electricity grid. These were the first step measures to be undertaken to make sure that we are safe in the activities of the rescue commands and teams, to renew the electricity provision, water provision, and gas provision to the different settlements. As of now, these works by the SES are underway. As for the further priorities and our areas of special attention, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that preliminary estimation is that the area that may be contaminated by the explosive devices may make up about 320 millions of kilometers, which is 1/3 of the Ukrainian territory, including 90,000 square kilometers of waters and coastal areas in the Black and Azov seas. As my colleagues have already mentioned, due to the international expertise, the clearing of the explosives may take from 9 to 10 years. Currently, we focus our attention on demining settlements, then the critical infrastructure facilities, and we have some results to report on. As of now, our units are now working on demining agricultural areas and natural ecosystems. It should be noted that the priorities and number of the areas for us to be cleared and checked are defined by the local military administrations. As for the surveying of the agricultural territory, the Ukrainian SES and military and civilian administrations are constantly approached by the local authorities with the requests for clearing and detecting explosive devices. Our teams have inspected lots of territory agricultural lands, including Chernihiv and Kiev regions, where we have been successful in driving the occupying force out. There were questions about the heroic deeds of our sappers. One thing to say is this: among the explosive devices used by the enemy, the major part is constituted by the devices prohibited by the international conventions. These are munitions that are working on the principle of self-annihilation. These ordnances are used for distance mining, and they are posing great threat to civilian lives today. The enemy has been cynical in planting different kinds of mines. They leave behind the tripwire grenades, explosive devices masqueraded in the different household devices, in the microwaves, in the furniture, in the people's households. Such ordinances and mines have been identified in Kiev, Sumy, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and other regions. Altogether, such devices and ordinances and ammunitions that have been already cleared are about 15% altogether, which is an astronomical figure. In spite of the deathly threat for our specialists, after the shellings stop in a few minutes' time, our teams come to help the Ukrainian civilians. They're clearing and disposing the ordnances, and all the measures needed are taken to secure lives of the Ukrainian civilians. It is safe to say that all our specialists, pyrotechnics in the emergency situation service and the national police, all of them are heroes. But we are not boasting about it. We are doing what we are supposed to do. Thank you for such a detailed research. I would like to give the floor to the representative of the national police to report on the demining activities. I would like to echo what my colleagues have previously suggested. I will report on the national police work in anti-mining activities in the following manner. Since the first day of the war began, we are doing all the necessary things to demine in the first place. And secondly, what we do is we are demining the territories that were occupied by the enemy. And once we receive the information from the local citizens, and then we expect the corpses in the places where the people have been killed. The territories for the Ukrainian armed forces have also to be cleared of the mines. And last but not least, educational services and other facilities, of course, must perform their activities in the mine-free zones. The exclusion zone at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in the area of Pripyat River, the same procedures are undergo. We have put up a combined unit, and since the beginning of the war, they have detected and cleared about 80,000 devices, more than a ton and a half were in the territories where the hostilities were taking place. As for the figures, as for the area for our future work, in this sense, we are working according to the requests that we receive from the local authorities. In different regions, we are now clearing the agricultural lands, which are important for the sowing campaign, to make sure that this country has something to eat at the end of this terrible year. As for the sappers, they are working according to the requests that we receive from the civilians, and the order of these activities are defined officially. My colleague has mentioned the activities of the sappers, and he mentioned that every step in detecting and counteracting these explosives. This is the expertise that we have received since 2014. This is what we did in the regions of Slavyansk and other areas in Donetsk region. As for the blast that we saw at the arms depots, have provided us with a relevant expertise, and we are following these patterns. We also have questions about the explosions of the civilians. I should categorically claim here that civilians are not empowered to provide any kind of works, either building activities or anything. You know, when we have people that want to use their tractors or start building their houses, they cannot do anything unless the area has been checked by the national police or by the state emergency service. It looks as if I have said anything I wanted to, and I'm ready to answer your questions. We have a couple of them. First one is to the SES representative. Considering the fact that we had trainings in the Hostomel, will you tell us about the demining of the water areas? Thank you for your question. Firstly, let me underscore that we don't have any time for training. In the village of Horinka, it was not a training. It was a planned activities with a view to clear the territory. We know that the summer is coming, and because we have received a lot of information on the possible existence of the explosive devices in the coastal area, so the decision was taken to conduct surveillance of this water area and of the coastal territory. In the system of SES, we have 15 units of underwater demining, and their task is, whether on land or under the water, they know what to do, the procedures are clear, and once we have received relevant requests from the owners or from the local authorities, we are responding to these requests. Next question is for the National Police representative. The journalist Maria Gunter is asking how many pieces of explosive devices you have cleared and how many manpower is deployed. Do you have such a statistics? Figures are available. We have about 300 personnel, and almost 100% of them are employed in the demining activities. First of all, we are surveying the territory after the artillery bombardment or other terrorist acts. And also we are working with the view of clearing all the territory that may be contaminated. The units that are working in the Kiev territory, I mentioned about 85,000 of pieces have been cleared, including thousands of hectares of land. Thank you. And another question is this. Allegedly, there were rumors about volunteers that would be trained the profession of pyrotechnic. And we were told that the rookies would be trained. And how many specialists are you ready to train? We don't have any information on the courses or training courses for such activities. Volunteers are engaged in clearing the debris, it is true, but as far as the explosive ordnance, no one of volunteer corps is not working there. You should understand that this is a work for professionals. Secondly, there are many people who don't belong to the national police or to the state emergency service. They have some skills and some expertise. Such people are invited to joint work with us as identifiers. That's what we call them, identifiers. They can, in case a suspected item has been identified, a person who can tell, yes, this is a dangerous explosive device. The only thing he can do is there is a suspicion and you have to call the hotline of the SES. That's everything they can do. In the National Police of Ukraine, we have organized training for training the so-called identifiers by any officer of the National Police. They have included 160 people, patrol force and so on, participating in such seminars. Yes, we are trained to do this. Any policeman or policewoman is able to identify whether the explosive device is dangerous and call for help of the specialists. I can't believe that the training of volunteers is a time-consuming process. Training pyrotechnics takes a year and a half in the peacetime, and only then can a person be allowed to work in such activities. Military courses on explosive, of course, are also taking place, but we are not aware whether we can train a person in a course of a month for him or her to make a mistake. This will be a lethal one. When we are talking about demining activities, only authoritative bodies are empowered to do this and have the relative knowledge. You should think about the thing called responsibility, and it is legislated that the treatment of explosives and of the small arms must be strictly regulated. At the National Police and the Ukrainian SES, we are fully equipped and fully manned, and we don't see it practical or necessary to train additional personnel in demining. In the future, I think we will be helped by the international organizations. They will not be teaching anyone or training anyone here. They will be doing their job. Thank you. Let me also remind you about the services, the application that is called Demining Ukraine. Through this application, you can inform and leave messages on the places where you think the explosive devices is in place. Let me also remind you that we will have demining press briefings every week on every Monday, and you're welcome to join. Thank you.